A lump of corroded bronze pulled from 45 meters of seawater in 1901 contains more than 30 precision-cut bronze gears, and scientists have confirmed it could calculate the position of the sun, moon, and 5 planets simultaneously, predict solar eclipses 18 years into the future, and track 4 separate Olympic Games cycles at the same time. The civilization that built it vanished. The technology it contained would not be seen again on Earth for 1,400 years. It is 87 BC, and you are standing on the deck of a Roman cargo ship somewhere between the island of Rhodes and the coast of Italy. The air smells of salt and cedar pitch. The hull groans. Around you, marble statues in wooden crates, bronze sculptures wrapped in oiled cloth, glass vessels packed in straw. This ship carries the spoils of Greek conquest, Rome stripping the Aegean world of everything beautiful. The wind shifts. The captain knows what that means. Within hours, the ship goes down. 45 meters of cold, dark water swallows everything. The marble, the bronze, the statues, and something else. Something tucked inside a wooden box, no larger than a shoebox. Something that, in the wrong hands or the right ones, could change the world's understanding of what humans are actually capable of. The location? A tiny, half-forgotten Greek island called Antikythera, a rocky, wind-scraped outcrop that sits in the channel between Crete and the Greek mainland, between nowhere and nowhere else. For nearly 2,000 years, the ship rests undisturbed. Fish weave through the broken amphoras, sediment buries the statues, the wooden box dissolves, but the bronze inside, 82 separate fragments of interlocked gears, survives. Bronze does not rot. Bronze waits. But here is what nobody tells you about the discovery. It was not archaeologists who found it. It was not the Greek government. It was not a British naval expedition or a German research institution. It was a group of sponge divers from the island of Simi, fishermen essentially, who stopped at Antikythera in October 1900 to shelter from a storm. One diver, Elias Stadiades, slipped beneath the surface to check conditions and came back up white-faced, hyperventilating, muttering about horses and naked women on the ocean floor. His captain, Dimitrios Kondos, didn't believe him. He went down himself. He came back up holding a bronze arm. The Greek government dispatched the naval vessel. The divers went back down, and over the next 9 months, they pulled up statues, coins, and phoras, and one lump of corroded bronze so unremarkable that for 2 years, nobody even looked at it closely. What happens next defies all logic, and it starts with an archaeologist noticing something in the rust. It is May 17, 1902. The National Museum of Athens is still cataloging the Antikythera Hall, 2 years after the sponge divers delivered it to the government. Valerio Stace, archaeologist, director of the National Museum, is walking through the storage room when he stops. One of the corroded lumps has dried out, and the drying has cracked it slightly. And through the crack, in the lamplight, Stace can see something that should not exist: gear teeth.
Bronze hand-cut gear teeth, precisely angled, mathematically regular. Stace calls a colleague, then another, then another. Word spreads through the museum. There is a geared mechanism in the Roman cargo. Something mechanical, something engineered. And it came from a wreck dated to approximately 87 BC, which means it was built before 87 BC. The scholarly establishment reacts with immediate, coordinated dismissal. The consensus from Europe's leading classical scholars: it must be a medieval navigational instrument, accidentally mixed into the hull, or it washed in from a later wreck, or Stace miscounted the dates, or, the theory that becomes dominant for decades, it simply cannot be what it appears to be, because the ancient Greeks did not build machines like this. They did not have the knowledge, the tools, the mathematics. This was the official position of the academic world for 60 years. They were catastrophically wrong. Derek de Sola Price was not an archaeologist. He was a physicist and science historian, and he had a habit of ignoring what he was supposed to believe and looking instead at what the evidence actually showed. What nobody tells you is what the X-rays revealed. Not 2 or 3 hidden gears, not a simple navigational dial, 30 interlocking bronze gears, a differential gear assembly, a mechanism that Western engineers believed was invented in the 16th century AD, an epicyclic gear train that modern watchmakers describe as extraordinarily sophisticated even by contemporary standards. Price published his findings. He called the device an astronomical calculator. He said, in print in 1959, the Antikythera Mechanism was more complex than any instrument for 1,000 years afterwards. The academic world fell very, very quiet. But Price only had X-rays, flat, limited, 2-dimensional images of a 3-dimensional machine. To truly understand what this thing did, the world would have to wait another 4 decades, and the answer, when it finally came, was more extraordinary than anyone had prepared themselves for. In 2006, an international team of researchers, the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project, brought the most powerful imaging technology on Earth to bear on 82 fragments of 2,000-year-old bronze. Polynomial texture mapping, 3-dimensional X-ray tomography, custom-built imaging systems from Hewlett-Packard. These are tools designed for cutting-edge material science, pointed at something made by hand in ancient Greece. What they found rewrote history. The mechanism had at least 37 interlocking bronze gears, possibly more. Some fragments are still too damaged to read. The front face displayed a large circular dial showing the position of the sun and moon through the zodiac calendar. The back face, and this is where your brain needs to hold on, contained 2 separate spiral dials. The upper back dial, the Metonic cycle, a 23-month, 19-year cycle that tracks the precise relationship between solar years and lunar months. The ancient Greeks knew this cycle, but here it was mechanically encoded. You could turn a hand crank and watch the moon's phase advance in real time. The lower back dial, the Saros cycle, an 18-year, 11-day, 8-hour eclipse prediction cycle, accurate enough that modern astronomers still use it. Think about what you just heard, a hand-cranked bronze device that predicts solar eclipses, built before Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon. But here is what nobody tells you, and this is the detail that makes engineers go quiet when they hear it. Inside the mechanism, researchers found a system of pin and slot epicyclic gearing, a specific mechanical technique that allows the device to model the moon's irregular orbit. The moon does not move at a constant speed across the sky. It accelerates and decelerates as it follows an elliptical path. This is subtle. This is mathematically complex. The Antikythera mechanism accounts for it. The pin and slot system physically mimics the moon's variable speed. This is not rough approximation. This is not a clever trick. Most people never connect these two facts. The ancient Greeks did not just observe the cosmos. They built a machine that modeled it. A machine whose mechanical sophistication was not surpassed until precision clockmaking emerged in 14th century Europe. And this is where everything changes, because the 2006 team also decoded the inscriptions. Hidden on the mechanism's internal plates, more than 3,400 characters of ancient Greek text, instructions, explanations, a user manual written for someone who would operate this device. And in that manual, researchers found something that placed the origin of the machine with stunning precision. The planetary dial references the Corinthian calendar, not the Athenian one. The dial uses the names of months from the calendar specific to Corinth and its colonies. One colony in particular, Syracuse, and the most brilliant mathematician and mechanical engineer in ancient Syracuse, the man Cicero himself described as a builder of mechanical spheres that modeled the heavens, was Archimedes. Archimedes died in 212 BC, killed by a Roman soldier during the sack of Syracuse. But his mechanisms, his designs, his school of engineering,
Those survived. And the answer to who truly built this device and why Rome was carrying it on a cargo ship in 87 BC leads to a story even stranger than the machine itself. It is 150 BC, and the island of Rhodes is the intellectual capital of the Mediterranean world. Not Athens, not Alexandria, Rhodes. Rhodes in the 2nd century BC is the place where the greatest astronomical school in antiquity operates, where Hipparchus of Mysia, the man who calculated the Earth's precession of the equinoxes and produced the first star catalog in Western history, works, teaches, and builds. Hipparchus is the single most likely candidate for the intellectual architecture behind the Antikythera Mechanism. He was the first person to use trigonometry to calculate astronomical positions. He developed the very mathematical systems that the mechanism encodes. Here is the question the experts cannot fully answer. Was this a one-of-a-kind device, built as a unique masterpiece? Or was it one of many, a product of an established tradition of Greek mechanical computing that we have almost completely lost? Cicero, writing in 77 BC, just a decade before the ship went down, describes watching a device in Rome that showed the positions of the sun, moon, and planets. He says it was brought from Syracuse. He says it was built by Archimedes. Cicero watched a working ancient computer. He describes it as a curiosity, impressive, but not as something miraculous or unbelievable. You would have made the same assumption he did, that these devices were simply known, that they existed, that building them was an established skill, which means we did not lose one device at the bottom of the Aegean in 87 BC. We lost an entire tradition. A team of professional engineers, using modern tools, struggled to replicate what a single Greek craftsman produced by hand with bronze chisels and a lathe. And here is the detail that should make your jaw drop. The front plate of the mechanism includes a parapegma, a star almanac that correlated astronomical events with weather patterns and religious festival dates. This was not just a scientific instrument. This was a calendar of civilized life. It told you when to plant, when to sail, when to hold the Olympic Games, when to pray. It was a machine that structured human time itself. What happened to the tradition that built it? And why did humanity have to wait 1,400 years to rediscover what the Greeks already knew, is a story that begins with the fall of one world and the long, slow rebuilding of another. In 212 BC, a Roman soldier kills Archimedes during the sack of Syracuse. The general Marcellus, who had ordered Archimedes not to be harmed, is reportedly devastated. He arranges the burial, but the killing is done. In 48 BC, the Great Library of Alexandria burns for the first time. The scroll rooms that held the collected knowledge of the Hellenistic world begin their long, irreversible destruction. In 529 AD, the Emperor Justinian closes the last pagan philosophical schools in Athens. The final institutional thread connecting the ancient Greek intellectual tradition to the living world is severed. And the mechanical tradition, the engineers, the craftsmen who knew how to cut 0.5 millimeter gear teeth in bronze by hand, disappear from the historical record completely. The answer to why this knowledge vanished is not a single catastrophe. It is something slower and more brutal. The systematic destruction of the social conditions that made precision thinking possible. The Hellenistic world, Rhodes, Alexandria, Syracuse, was a world of wealthy, literate, politically stable city-states that funded pure intellectual work for its own sake. When Rome absorbed these cities, it absorbed the art and the philosophy and the astronomy. But Rome was a military civilization. Rome wanted results. Aqueducts, roads, siege engines. Fine tolerance gear mechanisms that modeled planetary orbits? Not immediately useful to a legion. What nobody tells you is this. The Antikythera Mechanism may have been lost twice. First, physically, when the ship sank in 87 BC. Second, conceptually, when the knowledge of how to build it evaporated from the Earth and nobody even knew to mourn it. For 1,400 years, no human being on the planet built a mechanical device of comparable sophistication.
Not the Romans, not the Byzantine Empire, not the Islamic Golden Age, which preserved vast amounts of Greek knowledge, not Song Dynasty China, not medieval Europe. Nothing.
A gap in human achievement so wide and so strange that when historians first quantified it, they called it, in the dry language of academic papers, anomalous. It is not anomalous. It is a warning about how fragile the conditions for human brilliance actually are. But the machine survived, corroded, broken, silent at the bottom of the Aegean, but intact enough that when the right eyes finally found it, 14 centuries of silence could be broken in a single moment of recognition. Here is what you take away from this. At the bottom of a cold Greek sea, for nearly 2,000 years, a small bronze box waited. It waited through the fall of Rome, through the Dark Ages, through the Renaissance that thought it was rediscovering antiquity, through the Industrial Revolution that congratulated itself on inventing precision machinery. It waited until a sponge fisherman sheltering from a storm stumbled into it by accident. And what it contained, those 37 hand-cut gears, those eclipse cycles, that pin and slot mechanism modeling the moon's irregular orbit, tells us something profound. That human genius is not a straight line upward. It peaks, it vanishes, it waits in the dark for someone to find it again. The Antikythera Mechanism is not evidence of ancient aliens, lost continents, or secret civilizations. It is evidence of something more humbling and more hopeful, that ordinary human beings with bronze tools, clear skies, and enough time to think can build something that outlasts empires, survives 2 millennia underwater, and still has the power to stop us cold in a museum hallway and make us feel, for just a moment, genuinely small. That feeling, that is what history is for. If this story hit you the way it hit me the first time I encountered it, drop a comment below with just the word gears. I read every single one. And if you want more of the ancient world's most mind-bending hidden stories, the channel is right there. Everything we think we know about the past is incomplete. The Antikythera Mechanism is proof of that. See you in the next one.